I'm Mike O'Neill with Bench Builders, and we're speaking with thought leaders to uncover tips to help you break down the barriers that are keeping you or your business stuck. Joining me today is Brian Rutberg. Brian is the founder and president of Seattle based 3C Communications. Welcome, Brian.
Mike, good afternoon, and hello to our watchers and listeners.
Well, it's good to have you back. For those who don't know Brian, Brian was an expert panelist on our webinar series, and I've asked Brian to come back and share how he and his company works with leaders in sales and marketing and customer support to build more profitable and long-lasting relationships with their customers. And as we're thinking about how COVID has impacted our economy, it just strikes me, and I hope it strikes our listeners, of how critically important it is to be keenly aware of our customers and the value they bring. So let's just jump right in. Brian, the name of your business is 3C Communications. What does 3C stand for?
Well, one of the joys of owning a business is you get to make these decisions, and you can sort of represent what you want. When I started the business, I referred to it as you've got to create your message, communicate it out, but it's most important to connect with the audience that you want to reach, create, communicate, connect. And over time, that's taken on, my clients have led me in a new direction with it. Now I tend to refer to 3C as the customer connection company, helping, as you said, companies build stronger, longer lasting, more profitable relationships with their customers. No, but it's all about the customer, whether you think about it with the communications first, or you think about all the things that go into building great customer experience. Let's call it the customer connection company, shall we?
That we will. Brian, you had mentioned that you'd worked in some technology companies, and I know that prior to starting your own business, you worked for some pretty impressive companies to include HP, McKinsey, and Microsoft. In keeping with this podcast theme,
Yeah.
could you share with our listeners maybe an example by which your employer got stuck? And what did y'all do to get unstuck?
Yeah. And I had, I don't know if it's the good fortune, but I certainly had the opportunity through a couple of economic downturns and big corporate changes to watch companies that I worked for get stuck and then see how we managed to get ourselves out of the mud, so to speak. The most notable example was later in my corporate career. For a period of time when I was at Microsoft, I led the company's executive briefing center and the program that took place within it. My team was responsible for working with sales representatives all around the globe to bring senior business leaders and sometimes technology leaders as well from wherever their home was around the world into Redmond, Washington, Microsoft's home, to do meetings with top product people, top corporate executives, and for us to really connect with them and build a strong relationship with the people who made buying decisions and implementation decisions and who really needed to, they were responsible for the strategy in their organizations. And we wanted to position the technology as more than an enabler and something that really could help you achieve your corporate goals. And I was there from '07 until 10 in that particular role. And that means that I was there right in the midst of the global economic downturn at the end of the last decade. Oh gosh, that's 2 decades ago now. Anyway, the end of the aughts. And what we did to drive more customer engagement at a time when, this is an environment where, because we had global demand on the space and on the program that my team ran, we were booking visits 6, 8 months in advance. It was not at all unheard of as senior executives from the largest bank in Portugal or the largest manufacturer in Brazil, as they were getting up to leave one visit, we'd put the next one a year later back on the calendar. And in this environment, suddenly we were getting calls, no, we're not gassing up the corporate jet. We're not having our people travel. We're really in a global economic downturn. And my boss on the one side and my team on the other, and I kind of looked at this and realized the quality of this asset that we had and how to make sure that it didn't go to waste during a time when travel was a little dicier. we helped Microsoft literally get unstuck and helped several of our customers get unstuck by saying to our, an important audience for us, the global sales organization and the management of it, you know what, we're opening our doors wider than usual. It used to be that there was only a limited number of Microsoft customers that we would invite to come join us for this incredible experience that we gave. And we turned that rapidly into, nope, we've got 16 briefing rooms. We want to keep them as full as we can. We're going to waive our requirement that you book far in advance. If you've got a deal that feels like it can go down, if you use this facility and our services, we're ready to start creating bespoke programs that we can put together in a short period of time. We started doing, and this is 12 years ago, we started doing video conferences where we brought our speakers into rooms and we engaged customers who were sitting in their home offices, a whole new model for Microsoft. And we started saying to sales reps around the world, if you've got something that feels like it can close, work through your country management, but we're not keeping any of the usual restrictions on. Let's get deals working. And obviously, we now know that that recession did indeed end, but Microsoft maintained a great business flow even during that, as we started being able to change not just the way we engaged with our customers, but the story that we told them about how to enable cost savings and bringing more profit down to the bottom line through the use of technology. That's kind of a long answer, but yeah, we were stuck. We didn't know where things were going to go when suddenly we had people who had visited with us every year saying, yeah, I'm not going to make it this year. And we were looking at empty rooms, which is the bane of our existence.
Brian, that illustration seemed like a perfect way to kind of highlight what are we dealing with now, and that is, in many respects, the exact same issues are presented. There's concern about travel, be it because of COVID or because of economics. But what would really intrigue me about the example you just shared is the company, Microsoft, a huge company that had basically a machine in place designed 1 year in advance to offer this type of top line experience for big customers, is that y'all stepped back and said, we've got capacity. Why don't we fill that capacity? And the fact that they were willing to be nimble and change on the fly, it sounds like that served Microsoft well.
Well, and for those of us who were behind proposing this shift to senior management, because you can imagine the Executive Briefing Center is a place where back in those days, Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer were regular visitors to meet with senior executives from our top customers. The fellow who was then the chief operating officer of the company. I mean, this was an executive environment. So we knew we had eyes on us. So when we raised our hands and said, here's what we want to do, here's how we want to pivot, it wasn't just good for Microsoft. It didn't do any harm to any of our careers past that point too, because we've got a reputation for being nimble and thinking of company first, but it was really, little secret, customer first. And it was all the things you said and more. We felt great pride at helping the company figure out a way out of, or a way through, this situation, which we had nothing to do with. We hadn't brought it upon ourselves. We just knew we needed to be nimble in order to figure out a new way around.
If there are folks who would like to continue this conversation with you, what's the best way for folks to reach you online?
Yeah. 3C Communications has a website. It is 3ccoms.com. So 3ccoms.com. And through that, you can find the newsletter that I offer once to twice a month. You can find lots of information about the company and my philosophy on building customer engagement. And you'll see front and center that great question: do your customers love you enough? Come find me there, shoot me a note, and let's talk about how you can create more customer love in your environment.